How did Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin win the transfer portal? And also, we talk with Derek Vandygriff about Ole Miss baseball. And tonight is round one of the basketball egg bowl. Lots of stuff going on. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Shark Tank Live. We are back. Last Tuesday, we had the meet and greet in Lakeland, Florida, of all places of Locked On Ole Miss fans. Had a really good turnout for about 36 hours notice. So thanks again to everybody for showing up at that. About that, we are going to talk to Derek Vandygriff tonight about Ole Miss baseball. We're going to talk basketball with Ole Miss and Mississippi State tonight. We're going to talk about transfer portal and NIL. Tennessee is under the gun again, and everybody automatically assumes, well, Ole Miss has to be cheating. You know that refrain that we're used to? Everybody's saying that as well. So let's bring in Derek Vandygriff and see what's going on. Derek, how are you doing, buddy?
Man, doing pretty good. Ready for this next hour to run on by so we can get the first installment of the basketball egg bowl underway like you were talking about.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and in this rivalry overall, the home team wins and the road team loses. It's going to be a physical, fun game. But I think I said on my show maybe today that if Ole Miss beats Mississippi State and gets that free chance against Auburn and wins that game, you're looking at 19-3 at the midpoint of the SEC season. And you just have to start changing your conversation at that point.
Yeah. It's tonight's a big game, right? Winning that game in College Station against Texas A&M, that was kind of the first hurdle of this 4-game stretch with Arkansas, A&M, Mississippi State, and then Auburn. Luckily, these last two being at home, Miss is obviously a completely different team when we play in the Pavilion. We've seen that all year long, right? They shoot absolutely lights out in that building. And it's going to be tough with Mississippi State coming in. They're a heck of a defensive team. They're very, very physical. Rebels really need to get in there and rebound the ball. But this being at home, if you get this one, then it's an ultimate free shot against a top 10 RPI coming into your building on Saturday for Chris Beard and them to get to that 6-3 record at the halfway point of the SEC season. And then, at that point, you're really looking at, trying to win 4 more conference games the rest of the way to really lock yourself into an NCAA tournament bid.
Well, if you look at what Ole Miss is in the quad 1 and quad 2 and actually what their resume says, if they continue the same way, they're playing for seeding at that point. But they actually have a decent quad 1, quad 2 resume. I think they have 3 quad 1 wins at the moment and 1 on the road. So Chris Beard has them going. They have them working.
Yeah. And look, it's a lot of fun to be able to talk about Ole Miss basketball here in late January, going into February, right? We haven't had that in a few seasons in Oxford, but that's the Chris Beard effect, though. He comes in, he's one of the best coaches in the country for a reason. He's completely turned this program around so far in 1 year. He's got these kids believing, got them playing hard. And, again, the only real deficiency you see is the rebounding. That's the one thing that can kill you. But this one being in the Pavilion, like you said, the home team generally wins these games with Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So luckily this one's in Oxford. Let's go in and get this one, and we'll take our free shot against Bruce Pearl and the boys come Saturday.
What's the matchup tonight that mostly has your attention?
Yeah, I think it's down low. Tulo is a really good player for Mississippi State, the big guy that they have there. He's really athletic and long, and I know we have 2 7-footers, but I think he can create some problems. And our biggest thing, I think, is getting a body on him and not letting him dictate the physicality of this game. Let's be the one that throws the first punch down there and put bodies on bodies, be physical, kind of play at our pace, but also hit them in the mouth with the taste of their own medicine too, right? Not just sit back there and wait for the ball to come to you. Let's go and attack. I think that's one thing that we did really, really well when we had that good stretch after the Tennessee game, right? I talked about Sharp and Cisse in particular. Those two guys, they were going and attacking the ball a lot better in the air, getting a little bit better position. That's one thing that Sharp is mainly out of position because he's always trying to block shots, right? He's always trying to chase the ball and get that block shot. But they did a lot better during that stretch, getting in position to rebound the ball and going and attacking the ball in the air instead of waiting for it to come to them. That's one thing I think they need to do. And it's also the continuation of Jamin Brakefield kind of continuing his ascent to fulfilling his potential. He's really done a good job this year. He was one guy that I pointed out before the year that this basketball team really needs to play well because we needed that other option. And as big and long as he is, and his ability to shoot, that's one thing that he really picked up on this year. If you get him on the left wing from three, I mean, he's been absolutely deadly so far from there. So that's been really nice. And I think everything needs to keep running through Morrell offensively. Juju Murray has been absolutely incredible. He never makes the wrong play. That's one thing you need to ask from your point guard is anytime the ball's in his hand, don't make the wrong play. And he never does. He knows when to drive it. He knows when to pass it. And he's really good at drawing defenders in the middle of the lane and finding guys like Brakefield and Morrell out there on the wings or the corner or something like that for some threes. So, and then we saw against Texas A&M, he knows when to just take it upon himself and go win it. Right, heck of a shot by him. It was from way out there, but he had the space, and I think goes a long way with Chris Beard too. If you listen to his post game after that shot, him and Juju Murray both. Murray told him that no matter what, take your shots. You're not going to get in trouble for taking your shots. If they're there, put it in the air. And I think that instills a lot of belief in not only Murray, but the other guys on the team too, knowing that their coach believes in them and wants them to go out there and make a play. And if it doesn't go down, just come down and do it again the very next time down the court. So I think that's been a really big part of this turnaround for Ole Miss basketball.
Yeah, and if you are in the chat and commenting on the show, please comment with where you are commenting from. I'm genuinely interested to see where the people are commenting on the show is in Jeremy Morse from Pascagoula, Mississippi. But we're going to change the subject.
Mm-hmm.
What is the thought of other podcasts when referring to the NCAA investigating the Tennessee Vols? Everyone is saying Ole Miss has to be in violation. They scared? Yes, kind of. Really, they are. This is what people need to realize what's going on in this. Tennessee paid $8 million for Nico Iamaleava. $8 million. Jaden Rashad, Florida got in trouble for offering a contract of $13 million to an athlete that they couldn't pay. These are not the same things. People just assume that people are getting in trouble on NIL and just assume that Ole Miss is throwing money around. If people are assuming the poorest state in the union, a university, public university in the poorest state in America, is throwing around millions of dollars, I can see why they probably couldn't get into Ole Miss right now, because at best it's wishful thinking. At worst it's dumb, but mostly it's probably just fandom. So go ahead.
Well, just kind of on top of that is one thing people need to remember is when all of these rules and everything were even starting to be talked about coming into college athletics, they weren't in place yet. Think about how far ahead Ole Miss was of almost everybody in the country planning for that to go into place, right? You heard about it 2, maybe even 3 years in advance before it became a thing. When they started talking about NIL coming to college athletics, Keith Carter and his staff, they did an incredible job of getting everything set up the right way. That's one thing that everybody always talks about with Ole Miss with their NIL, their collective. They're so far ahead of everybody, and that's thanks to Keith and his staff and Walker Jones, all of those people that put in work way before these rules were ever put in place to make sure they knew what they could do, what they couldn't do. And as soon as those rules hit the books, we were ready to hit the ground running, and they did, and they've done an incredible job. So I think Ole Miss is going to be fine in all of this here. I think this is just a case of sour grapes from some people thinking that we can't do it. But I think by the time it's all said and done, it'll be a testament to Keith and Walker Jones and all those people getting Ole Miss in a position to be such players in this era of college athletics.
Yeah, the main thing as well that you're looking at, Ole Miss does not have a necessarily high dollar NIL recruit this cycle. There is not a quarterback. There's not a bank buster, except if you want to take Walter Nolan. But even Walter Nolan isn't quarterback money. But it gave Ole Miss the ability to make $1 spend like $3.
Yeah.
Oregon probably spent 2 times as much money as Ole Miss, and they ended up with the number 2 or number 3 class. Ohio State probably spent 2 to 3 times as much money as Ole Miss. Their class is where it is. The difference is both of them have quarterbacks. And Texas, I don't think they care how much money it is as well. But Ole Miss didn't spend a ton of money. They assume they did because of these fake, phony on-3 NIL evaluations that's not real.
Yeah.
It's completely made up. But they assumed that, but they didn't. In fact, they lost Quinshon Judkins. He transferred away because Quinshon Judkins kept coming back and asking for more money and wanting to renegotiate his contract, threatening to get into the portal. Finally, they just said, well, we'll go.
Yeah,
because you were asking for more money than a bottom line we were willing to spend for you.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that Lane, Walker, whoever it is that does all of this, they've done a really good job of kind of putting a number on a position, what they're willing to spend, just like you said. And if that player goes over that number, then they just move on, right? And they go find somebody else to spend that money on. They don't seem to be overextending themselves, overpaying. So I mean that's just one thing that I've thought that they've done a really good job of this offseason, particularly in the transfer portal.
Yeah, it's a situation like Randy Wilbanks here says, Stephen, do you worry about team chemistry with all these big time recruits coming in? Love your show from Walnut, Mississippi. There's always a chance that it's going to be problematic, but I don't think it will be. I don't think this is in technically leadership positions that are make or break. This would be a problem if Jackson Dart was kind of a loose cannon and can't become that. That's when you worry about team chemistry. The whole Anthony Richardson type stuff going on at the top of the lineup. And whenever you look at positions that don't necessarily matter for leadership, that's kind of where the divas have been for Ole Miss. And Ole Miss has won 11 games with Judkins at running back. They won 11 games. They did a decent job of keeping that. And that is because of the leadership of JJ Pegues, of Jackson Dart, of Trey Harris, those guys that have managed to keep the main thing, as the young ones say. And those guys are all coming back. I don't think you're going to have a situation where Princely Amon Mielen is anything. He wants to win. He wants to get ready for the league. He wants to completely show out. Same goes for Walter Nolan. Same goes for Chris Paul, Pooh Paul. I think Paul is going to take even a leadership role on the defensive side of the ball. And you got players from Alabama and stuff like that. I'm genuinely not worried about chemistry. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. And I think you absolutely nailed it there. And I was going to bring up Dart and Harrison Pegues just like you did, which kind of speaks volumes to how strong their leadership skills are, right? People can see it from the outside. I think Jared Ivey's another guy, going into another year at Ole Miss. He could have gone pro if he wanted to, but he's coming back. That's another veteran leader on that defensive line. And then look at a guy like Suntarine Perkins. He's only been here 1 year, but look what he went through last year. That culture that he experienced, as far as he's concerned, that's just how college football's done, right? It's all he knows. So I think that gets ingrained in a young player like Suntarine as well. And then you get, Bentley back and Jeremy James and Caleb Warren, those kind of guys on the offensive line that have been here for so long. Pettis coming back, this will be his third year. I just think Lane and the guys have done a really good job of building culture, and the players themselves have done a great job from a leadership standpoint, taking control of that roster and that locker room.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting because in this area of transfer portal, I always talk on my show that there's no more building programs. There's no such thing as fifth year seniors.
Mhm,
It's just this year's team, next year's team. They're all just separate entities that you
mhm,
go and make the best out of each one. And because of that, there's a yo-yo nature, the up and down nature, and you can see it with Arkansas this year. It's going to happen to Ole Miss. It happened to Ole Miss a little bit last year as
mhm.
well, where the ingredients aren't quite right, so you kind of underperform what's going on. I don't think Ole Miss will ever bottom out with Lane Kiffin as the coach, but there's going to be some ebbs and flows, and you're not just going to have a Alabama or Georgia type run recruiting like this.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of like you're talking about with the ebbs and flows, the yo-yo effect, and all that. Uh, if the previous year is the down year, going 8-4, 8-5, whatever it was, uh, and then the ups being going 11-1 or whatever, making the playoffs, this new 12-team playoff. I think the fan base as a whole will take that, right. As long as you're not bottoming out to a 3-9 record at some point or something like that. I don't think that'll happen under Lane, kind of like you said. So it's definitely interesting to see how it's all going to play out with this transfer portal thing. But it's one thing that Lane Kiffin's proven that he's really good at, right, and that he can make work. And another name that I didn't mention a second ago that I think is really big is pre-scoring, right? An older guy that transferred in coming into his second year. He's coming back to build up his draft stock and have one more year in college. So that's just another guy along with Dart and Harris and Pegues and all to kind of meld all of these people together and all these new players. And I don't think we're going to have any issues from that standpoint.
Yes. We got a question here from Donna Taylor who says Coach O is doing a wonderful job, but we keep showing more love to the guys than we do to our ladies, and our ladies deserve talking about as well. You are absolutely correct, Donna, but here's the problem. I do a video on it. Nobody watches it. Nobody. It is wasted effort. And I'm not discounting or anything what the ladies do and what they can be as a program and what Coach Yo has done. I'm a person that believes that you have to do things based on how things are and not how things should be. And the way things are right now means that I do 90% of my work on Ole Miss football. I do 5% on men's basketball, 5% on baseball, and occasionally I do some other stuff. But I am going to interview Brantley Sanderson on Friday after the Vanderbilt game and before the South Carolina game on the Lady Rebs. We're going to talk a little Lady Rebels basketball. So, Donna, please watch that video and get your friends to watch that video to prove that analytically it's worth me spending a little bit more time on it.
Yeah, I like Coach O. I think she's doing an incredible job, especially what she took over when she got to Oxford, right? But it's one of those niche sports. Baseball is kind of the same way. You know how much I love college baseball. But look, she's doing a good job. She did what she needed to do. I mean, she did her job the other night for as much heat as she ended up taking for it. But that's her program. She's going to fight for it, and good for her for coming out and doing that. And the fans ended up showing up the next home game there and ended up having a good crowd. So maybe we can keep that going for her and keep supporting the Lady Rebs.
Yeah, and it's a situation. I agree 100% with everything that Coach Yo said in that press conference.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree with everything. You can't even perceptionally make it come across like you're going after fans when fans have so much responsibility in the NIL space and what's going on right now. You just can't do that. And that's not a me liking Coach Yo or anything like that. It's just you can't tick off what is the second smallest fan base in the conference. We need to be small but mighty. We don't just need to be small,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of the feedback I got from a lot of friends and stuff like that too. So I think you've hit the nail on the head with that. But again, it's not that nobody's supporting Coach O. I hope she has all the success in the world from here on out. And I understand she was doing her job though at the same time. It's her job to fight for her girls and her
Mhm.
program, and try to get people in the stands. And so we'll see how it ends up being taken the rest of the year. It seems like it somewhat worked with the first game since it though. They did have a pretty good crowd, so maybe
Yeah,
people
but they
will
were
get
they,
out
they were
there a
play,
little
they
bit.
were playing Tennessee though.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the problem when you have the LSU's, Tennessee, South
Yeah.
Carolinas, all them come in, maybe even state to a degree. But yeah,
Well,
with
the problem with Florida and the reason the crowd was so small, this is the dirty secret. Nobody cares about Florida basketball, Florida women's basketball. Even Florida fans, nobody goes to those games.
yeah,
And so they weren't helping at all.
hmm
So it was completely on you, and it was like a Thursday night game at 8 o'clock at night. I mean, like anything that could go wrong in that situation did. And Ole Miss had a home game the night before against Arkansas,
yeah,
a men's
that's what
game.
I say. You had the men right before that too, and when you have people that don't live in Oxford traveling back to back nights during the week, having to work and everything, it's just not a recipe for success.
Rebel Munchkin says winning consistently for the Lady Rebs will get them more eyeballs. Winning is the key. That is absolutely the case. This is a big week for the Coach Yo and the Lady Rebs. Playing on the road in Memorial Gymnasium against Vanderbilt. That's a big game. And then they get the big bad South Carolina Gamecocks on, I guess, Sunday. I mean, it's a situation where Ole Miss can easily drop both of those games, but if they get one of them, they're kind of cooking with gas.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the way you look at the men's week coming up, right? You got Mississippi State and Auburn, and you're looking, even though they're both at home. Ideally, if you get just one of them, you get a split. Then you're more or less happy as long as the loss is to Auburn. You got to win that one tonight in the Pavilion. You got to beat Mississippi State, and then if you end up losing to Auburn, you finish the week 1-1 after having a good week last week, and you can kind of move on from there.
Yeah, if you go to the turn at 5-4 in the SEC,
Mhm.
that's already won. You've won two more games than you did all of last
All-
season.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
I
exactly.
mean,
And the fact that we're sitting here talking about it this late in the season too, I say that all the time when I record our shows is, the fact that we're still talking Ole Miss basketball is a lot of fun, quite frankly. I did used to really, really like Ole Miss basketball. I was really into it, especially back in the Andy Kennedy days. That was my dude. I love Andy Kennedy to this
man,
day.
Gerald Glass was my dude. He
Oh,
was
there we
my
go.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so my favorite Ole Miss player of all time is Jason Harrison. Dude,
Okay.
I couldn't get enough of little Jason out there running around when he hit that three against Notre Dame. I mean, because look, I'm a small guy too, right? And especially growing up when Jason was playing, I was like 4'11", 5 foot. I was little to nothing, and seeing him out there do that, I was like, all right, well, maybe I can do something, which obviously I couldn't have, but it still gave me at least a little bit of hope. And Jason was awesome to see, though. I absolutely loved watching him play back then.
That Sweet 16 game. Okay. I was stationed on NASJRB, Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. That's Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, Willow Grove, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and got a hotel room on base, just stayed at the Navy Lodge on base because they had a TV in the room and I could be left alone and I could watch the games and all that. And Ole Miss won the first game. They hit the shot against Notre Dame, and all of a sudden, Ole Miss was getting big bad Arizona and Mike Bibby and
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah.
And I,
Richard Jefferson was Gilbert Arenas on that team too. I mean, they
yeah,
were
yes.
absolutely loaded.
Yeah, just crazy loaded. So I broke into my office. This was back before you have key cards and digital signatures, because in our office we had a 40-inch tube TV that was on the rolling cart like you used to have in school.
Mhm.
And I watched the game that night in there, sitting in a dark office, hoping the shore patrol, the security services didn't come run me out and take me off to jail.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun watching that team back then. And Chris Beard's going to get us back there, though. That's one thing I am confident in. When you look at the recruits he's got bringing in and already changing the culture, it's a lot of fun to watch Ole Miss. It's been the first time in 3 years they've been appointment television, to where when they play like a 7:30 or an 8 o'clock game, I'm thinking all day, all right, what time can I get out of work so I can get home and get like an hour and a half nap so I can stay up late enough to watch this game? I get up at 3:30 in the morning, so I've got to get me like hour and a half. I'm going to be staying up past 8 o'clock.
Right, right. Oh, and also, by the way, one of my coolest Ole Miss basketball moment was I stormed Tad Smith Coliseum's court after Keith Carter and the Ole Miss Rebels beat Kentucky with Dick Vitale calling the game.
Yeah. That was good.
That was my big moment in Oxford.
Yeah, so my Tad Pad moments were actually during football season. We tailgated in the parking lot of the Tad Pad right in front of it there where the ticket office was at, and we found one door that was never locked in the Tad Pad that would lead down to the court. And so we would go down there, me and like 3 of our buddies, and we would find a random basketball laying around, and we would play on the courts at Tad Smith while we were growing up. Because whoever it was would always leave that one door unlocked inside.
Yeah, probably they could not do it.
Yeah,
Daniel Parker says, yeah, what's up, Willis? David Landrum is talking about Valpo and
we're
that team. Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. And this is Egg Bowl basketball as well. Now, before we get out of here, we try to keep Shark Tank Live to be about 30 minutes long, an episode. What's going on with baseball? What's the latest?
Yeah, man, they're gearing up for a trip to Hawaii coming up here. Ends up being 2 weeks from Friday. Now, those are ones that everybody's going to have to get a nap for. First pitch local time is going to be 10:30 p.m. So we got to get home, get plenty of naps to be able to stay up for that. So that'd actually be 11:30 for you, Steve.
Yeah, that's happening. I'll wake up the next day and see the score.
Yeah. Well, I'm coming home and I'm going to try to get me a good 2-3 hour nap. I'm going to stay up for every single pitch of at least that Friday game.
What's the TV situation?
They do stream out in Hawaii. I'm not sure what it is quite yet, but I've heard people talk about that the Hawaii baseball games are streamed. I've got to figure that out. But yeah, baseball. I think we're going to have a really, really good team. Anybody that's listened to my shows heard me over the last several weeks talk about it. Got several player interviews out right now. If y'all want to catch up on them,
Dude, you're killing it, bud. You're killing it.
Yeah,
nobody's doing what you're doing.
It's a whole lot of fun talking to those guys, and the reason I bring that up, you can hear when you talk to them what they're thinking about for this upcoming season. Nobody's really focusing on the big letdown that we had last year. We've got a bunch of new guys in, a bunch of guys in the transfer portal, some freshmen that really sound like are going to help us that are really exciting. And look, we've got a bunch of guys coming back. Josh Mallett's coming back from injury to help that bullpen. The bullpen is a real weapon this year. That's something we haven't had really in a couple of years since that national championship year.
Yeah. Interview with Josh Mallett is coming, by the way.
Yeah. It is supposed to be recording Fridays. We'll have that out for you this weekend. But yeah, you've got Mallets and Nichols returning in the bullpen. The Captain Morrell coming back in the bullpen. And then you've got guys that if they end up not starting, Liam Doyle, Kyler Carmack from the transfer portal. One thing that Mike and the guys really seemed to focus on was bringing in a bunch of lefties. That's one thing we haven't had. We haven't had a lot of lefties come in and run matchups throughout the year. We had one lefty coming out of the bullpen all year last year with Jackson Kimbrell. And outside of Xavier Rivas, those are the only 2 we had, and Rivas was starting for us. So I think the bullpen is going to be a real weapon. I think the starting rotation is going to be incredible. I think Quinn and Saunier take that freshman to sophomore jump we usually see with Mike Bianco pitchers. Rivas is back after being our best starter last year. And look, this lineup's going to mash. Okay, 1 through 9, they're going to be really, really tough outs. You've got guys fighting for at bats, guys that have been here. John Kramer, Judd Udermark coming back. He was a freshman last year that absolutely destroys baseballs. But then you look around and wonder where they're going to get the at bats at, because you've got, you look at first base, Will Furness and Jackson Ross. Jackson transferring in, those are guys that are going to need up at bats at first base and DH. And then Leger, I automatically assume second base, completely unprompted. JT Quinn, Grayson Saunier, Trayson Hughes, and Andrew Fisher all talked about this freshman second baseman for us. God, I'm blanking on his name now. But they think he's going to end up starting at second base. Randall, that's his name, Randall.
So
But
it's kind of like Peyton Chatagnier was,
yeah, yeah,
where everybody kind of talked about him, and he
yeah.
just came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the profile too we're getting with him too. He was, not the most highly recruited player. He was a Texas commit at one point, but really, really solid defender. Just makes all the plays at second base and a contact oriented approach where he goes up there. He's not going to strike out, puts the bat on the ball. And if you do that enough, look at Ethan Leger last year. He had a really bad start to the year, but he never struck out. And by the time the last part of the year come up, those balls finally started finding holes. So that's a profile that can transition pretty quickly to this level as long as you're not striking out. So that's a guy to look for there. Got the freshman from Oxford behind the plate in Smithwick that everybody's really, really high on. He can really swing it, and a lot of really good things coming out of the offseason with him defensively. And then transfers like Andrew Fisher that I've talked to, Luke Hill, I've got an interview up with him too that we did back a few months ago. But those are two guys that are going to come in and take over the left side of the infield, third base and shortstop. And, those are guys you put in there and you just don't touch. You let them swing, you let them defend, and they are great at both of them. So really excited about what Mike and the guys have done to really completely revamp this roster. I think it's a good mesh of older guys coming back, guys with experience, and guys coming in from the transfer portal as well. So really excited about this baseball team. You should expect to host a regional. That should be your expectations, whether it happens or not. But this team is absolutely talented enough to do that, to be competing for a host spot in a regional and a super regional. And one thing every one of them says when you talk to them or when I talk to them, there's only one expectation at Ole Miss, and that's to get back to Omaha, right? This is a really proud baseball program with a history of winning over these last 24 years that Mike Bianco's been at the helm, and they're hell-bent on getting us back to the top of the college baseball world. So I'm ready for these next 2 weeks to get over with. That way I can finally see somebody throw a ball and get this thing underway.
Oh, David Landrum's asking, are divisions going away on baseball when Texas No U come in? I think divisions have been gone for a while, haven't they?
Yeah. The divisions have been gone in baseball for a while now. So, but obviously with football and all, that's definitely happening in football. Yeah, but they have been gone in baseball.
Okay, so at third base you're thinking Fisher. At shortstop you're thinking Hill. Second base you have the freshman
Braden Randall. It's come to me now. Yeah.
Where's Leger?
Left field. That's kind of what Fisher and Trayson Hughes both said. They think that if Randall ends up taking over the spot at second base, then Leger's going to move out to left field. Look, Leger's a guy that's going to be in there one way or another, whether it's second base or left field. They're going to find a spot for him. He's a guy that played a heck of a lot of baseball for us last year and played very, very well. So that's a bat you've got to get in your lineup no matter where it's at.
Yeah, and Ole Miss this year is going to be more skilled in the outfield than they've been in quite some time with the addition of Trayson Hughes to go with Ethan Groff.
Yeah, that's one thing Trayson talked about was, just the pure athleticism between just those two, right? It doesn't really matter who you stick out in left field defensively when you've got guys like Hughes and Groff that can cover as much ground as they can. And two guys with really good arms too. And quite frankly, they're five tool guys. They can play defense, they can throw, they can hit for power, and they can run. So it'll be interesting. I think you'll see Groff at the top of the lineup. I kind of had a thought of Hughes being up there, but he's thinking he's going to hit anywhere from 2 to 5, something like that. So if that's the case, I think Groff's definitely at the top of the lineup, set the table for these big bats.
All right, everyone. The Egg Bowl basketball version is about to tip off in about 25 minutes. Enjoy that. Tim Thomas will be on the show. We're not going to do an immediate instant overreaction like we do for football, but at the tomorrow we're going to have Tim Thomas, and he'll have it for 7:00 tomorrow night. We've got Mike Detillier coming on the show on Thursday. John Forcade will be on this weekend. Brantley Sanderson talking about Coach Yo and the Lady Rebs will be on Friday. Then we'll obviously have Tom Vanderford, Josh Guest, and all the regulars will be on the show as well. We got a lot of stuff to get to. And on the other channel, if you go to the SEC After Dark YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to that, you can see Dids in the Dugout, where Derek Vandygriff and those are on there, and SEC After Dark, our Wednesday show with Corey Burton from Locked On Vandy and Believe in Georgia Dogs, Jeb Beecham, and Tide Talk Lives. Jake Thomas is on that show, and some other stuff is there. Well, we do movie reviews. We try to have a good time. That channel is basically for all the stuff that Locked On says I can't do. I mean, that's what that is. That's just the depository. So subscribe to both if you would, and you won't miss out on that at all, because Derek and those guys, Chad Flowers from the Brad and Chad show fame, is coming on there with him, and Anthony Hitchcock is there as well. They do a pretty fantastic job.
Yeah. I think we're going to end up recording on Friday, so I should have shows with those two out this weekend. Then, like I said, interviewing Josh Mallets. That should be out sometime this weekend, but you can go back. Andrew Fisher's interview came out today, and then the interviews with Trayson Hughes and Liam Doyle, Luke Hill, Will Furness, JT Quinn, Grayson Saunier. All of those guys are up on the SC After Dark YouTube channel under Dids in the Dugout, so y'all go check those out.
Yeah, good stuff. So everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Enjoy the basketball game. Tomorrow morning, we will have the top 5 impact transfers, including who I think might be the most impactful transfer in Ole Miss football history, is on tomorrow's show. We also talk about a player that's in the JUCO rank that could be a 2025. It would not surprise me if for some reason they classed up, if they are able to do it, because Ole Miss did that a year ago as well. But I talk about that as well. So anyway, for Derek Vandygriff, I'm Stephen Willis. Thank you very much, and we will see you tomorrow morning. Take care. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.